You too, what it do, man? It's your boy Benji and we back. This one says WWE Top 10 Worst Finishers in 2025. Now, this ought to be something I'm interested in because there are some bad finishers in the W. Let's check it out. If you're new, please don't forget to subscribe. Slide that like button to chop. Let's get it. Let's see what this is about here.
Wrestler has the worst finish right now. Before we get to that, let's start with number 10,
My bad. That thing was running fast.
Jey Uso's spear.
Yeah, I
the
hate this
spear
dude.
is a classic move that wrestlers have been using as a finisher for decades,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of the problem with Jey Uso's version of it. The fact is that several wrestlers are currently using the spear. That wouldn't be so bad, but Jay's version is kinda lame. It just never looks like he performs it right. In fact, commentators
It does look like he's trying to like hit somebody with a crossbody or something like that. Like, it doesn't look like it's like something that you could effectively utilize as a finisher, even though he's utilized as a finisher against somebody like Austin Theory.
have gotten confused.
And oh! With a cross body.
That's what I'm saying. It looks like a crossbody.
Now, I
Because it's not like he's driving them forward like a spear would be.
like the idea of Jay's spear, how
That
he
wasn't
jumps
bad.
right before hitting his opponent. It's kind of like he's attacking his opponent with his shoulder rather than tackling them. However, the person taking the finisher usually just falls straight down. If the opponent got knocked back a bit, it would make Jay's spear feel stronger. At the very
Yeah.
least, the spear is a tried and true finisher. This next move, though, I don't know who thought this was finisher material, and that's number 9, LA Knight. BFT. I've heard people say this is a worse version of the Stone Cold Stunner or the RKO, and I tend to agree. The BFT
It's like an in the middle, like, you know, where it's unique to LA Knight, but unfortunately, like, we've seen the cutters and the stunners, so it's a move that you just can't really do right because he's falling to his knees, but he's bringing the person forward, and like, but they start right here like it would like an RKO. It just doesn't look right. If you had to ask me, I do agree with that. I don't really like that finisher.
or blunt force trauma sometimes feels like it's done a bit too slow, but the real problem is that it often doesn't look like the opponent's head actually hits the mat. It's a little better when the person getting hit flips forward and lands on the back, but that's still not enough to save this finisher. LA Knight uses the Burning Hammer as a signature move, and I don't know why he doesn't make that his finisher. But hey, it could be worse. At least it's not. Number 8, Bailey, Rose Plant. In 2022,
Yeah, I don't like that
I
move
created
either.
a video of the worst finishers in WWE at that time. Bailey's Rose Plant was on there.
Dude, that backstabber joint is nice, man.
And 3 years later, it's still here. Simply put, the finisher looks messy. The sep is
Yeah, she barely ever does it in a way that looks good, like it looks convincing. I don't, but honestly, if y'all had asked me the last 2 years I watched Bailey wrestle, a lot of her stuff just doesn't seem convincing to me in the ring.
awkward, and the impact is usually minimal. Occasionally
That
the
looked
Rose
good.
Plant looks
That looked
good,
good.
but that doesn't make it an effective finisher. The same thing can be said for number 7, Noam Dar, Elbow Galactico.
Why is it even called a rose plant? Like, what's the rose has to do with Bailey?
I honestly didn't know Noam
What's his
Dar
name?
was on the WWE roster in 2025. To be fair, the man
So we watched the WWE video before, and we watched an AEW video before, and I told y'all I don't really like the strikes. Now, if you have a strike, I think it has to be coming from somebody that looks convincing. Like when you got JBL, who's bigger than almost everybody, doing a big clothesline where he's running at people, that's something different. Even the buckshot lariat, I think, is like convincing. Even, what is it? I want to say Akuda so bad, but it's not his name. My boy is holding the unified title. I don't know. I'm gonna butcher his name. Anyways, his clothesline, like legit, the rain.
was out of action with
Rainmaker.
a year-long injury, but his finisher isn't helping him stand out either. Noam Dar's finishing move is one several wrestlers have used, and
The
that's a
drop kick?
lariat to the back of the head. I personally don't like this finisher, and
I'm
Noam
not a
Dar's
fan of it.
version, Elbow Galactico, is a good example why. It just doesn't look like it really connects. On top of that,
Oh, you're trying to do like, so I ain't gonna lie, the way that what's my boy's name? El Idolo, Andrade. The way he does it, man, it's convincing. It looks legit.
it just seems lame, especially for a cruiserweight wrestler like Noam Dar.
I agree. That's what I said. Like at a certain point, we have to understand that there's differences in like weight classes, and that's what I think has made a lot of wrestling unconvincing these days. And I think a lot of people don't get behind these dudes as stars because it just doesn't make any sense. How do you have a dude like that that's delivering a strike, and then you're supposed to believe that that's what's knocking people out? If you have somebody who's 6'5", 300 pounds delivering that, you might say, okay, that hurt somebody.
Making it even worse is that before he got injured, Dar was using an Enziguri as his finisher. It wasn't a great finisher, but it was better compared to the Elbow Galactico. Now,
He doomed himself. That's why you don't know he's on TV. He picked three terrible moves as finishers.
I'm gonna cheat a bit with this next entry, but I think you'll understand. At number 6, I have Grayson Waller and Chelsea Green, the Unprettier. The Unprettier, or Kill Switch, is a finisher made famous by Christian. I think it's a solid finisher. However, it works because Christian hooks the opponent's arms and uses his back to help drive their head into the mat. So why do I have Grayson Waller and Chelsea Green's versions on this list?
The girls never take that move well. It always looks awkward.
I'll explain. Ladies first. Chelsea Green's version of the Unprettier is similar to Christian's, only she jumps before hitting the move.
Right, and I think that's what makes it like unconvincing.
Because of this, it makes it look like the opponent is intentionally forcing their head down. Chelsea Green's Unprettier just isn't convincing.
Not really. It just doesn't look effective
to me, and it's hard for me to suspend my disbelief. By contrast, Grayson Waller's version of the Unprettier sees him doing a somersault over his opponent's back.
That's a nice move. If y'all like Soruka's move, then you like that too.
Because he has less control over his opponent, the impact of the finisher is diminished. Maybe this is why Grayson Waller doesn't win many matches. I'm going to say a no-no word, but I think it's the best way to explain why I don't like Waller or Green's versions of the Unprettier.
They jump.
They look fake. It looks like the opponent is choosing to fall down whenever these two finishers are hit, and it's an ugly way
that looked good.
So I guess the Unprettier is a fitting name. But what could be worse than that? Well, feast your eyes on number 5, Stephanie.
Grayson Waller and that dude had a steel cage match. Yeah, Stephanie Vaquer, I'm not a fan.
Vaquer, SVB.
I mean, I'm a fan of her as a wrestler and her individually, but yeah, I don't think her finisher is like legitimately convincing. Again, like she's a small woman, so even if you pick somebody up, if you drop them on your knee, it's not convincing because they're only going up like a couple inches before they drop on your knee.
Vaquer's run in WWE has been pretty solid, and she's a very talented.
Very solid, dude. Since she got moved to the main roster, she's done nothing, and that's not like a fault of hers. It's unfortunately something going on with whatever the creative team is doing. They literally had her last week in a scenario where she's supposed to be at a contract signing, but she just doesn't show up. Oh yeah, you guys are still gonna have the match. We're just not signing a contract. First of all, whose idea was it to even have a contract signing between these two women? We're gonna put mics in front of women who don't speak English in a predominantly English-speaking city, in front of an English-speaking fan base. I'm not mad at people that don't speak the language because I think it's more convincing when they speak and do promos in their native tongue, because that would come off as natural if you're really angry, because that's really the way you speak. It doesn't make sense for you to like have contract signings and we're going to be trying to listen to two people that are trying to translate in their head in order to speak, and that's supposed to convince us that there's supposed to be some type of heat or animosity going into the match. Just do a video promo and call it a day.
Talented wrestler. However, she needs a new finisher. Stephanie Vaquer's current move, the SVB.
So look at this. I'm saying this is a small woman.
Is
like, I'm not mad at this, but if she turns into a bomb, I said, ooh.
An awful.
But she goes into her knee, so the distance, like the amount of space that's going from here to your knee is like crazy, and then you're not going to tell me that her knee is just so pointy that.
But it doesn't look impactful enough.
Stephanie Vaquer.
Like, if she drops mine in their head right there, I'll be like, oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying?
For the SVB, the Stephanie Vaquer bomb on Green for the win.
But it's a Stephanie Vaquer bomb. Why not, like, actually bomb somebody?
The main problem is that a lot of the time, it looks like Vaquer is just sitting her opponent's back on top of her knee. This would be an alright signature move, but a finisher should look much more devastating.
Like, look at the amount of distance that's being traveled here. I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna say something stupid, but I'm not gonna say it.
At number 4, Asuka, Empress Impact.
Dude.
You remember the rear view, Naomi's finisher, where she literally used her butt as a weapon? Well, Asuka's doing that too.
In
June 2025, the Empress of Tomorrow introduced a new finisher, the Empress Impact.
I'm cool with that it's being used like it's just a move, like a signature move or something like that, but like using the finisher is ridiculous. Again, a small person that just doesn't. God dang, well, God dang, thirsty, Asuka coming after me. As a small woman, it doesn't make any sense.
But
like do something like that. All right.
They ain't fooling nobody. That's Asuka's booty hitting her opponent. It was just as lame as when Naomi did it, but I would argue that Asuka's is even worse. At least with Naomi, she had a bakery. Asuka, well, no comment. It's just a weak and kind of silly finisher, not fitting of someone as skilled as Asuka. But what could be worse than that? Well, wait until you see number 3, Julius Creed, Sliding Lariat. Jade Eagle's finisher, the clothesline from hell.
Hey, I told y'all that looks brutal.
Was just a clothesline.
And like he did that against, dude. I remember that guy.
Sliding lariat.
What was this dude's name?
JBL's finish.
I used to hate his outfit. I used to hate his get up. I was like, but this dude is just unconvincing, totally.
The clothesline from hell was
Like that right there. I'd be like, oh yeah, let's knock out.
just a clothesline, but at least it was intense. Julius Creed's finishing move is similar, except the wrestler taking it is sitting down.
No.
I mentioned how I didn't like the lariat as a finishing move, but when the opponent is already down on the mat, it makes it even less devastating. To make it even worse, Julius Creed has so many better moves in his arsenal, like moonsaults and shooting star presses. Yet this is his finisher. The saddest part is we still have 2 more finishers, and they somehow only get worse. All right, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Number 2, Jada Parker, Hypnotic. All right.
I agree. I don't think running hip attacks should be something that somebody uses as a finisher, unless you're like talking about it in the corner, because those look like more brutal than the ones that people are taking in the middle of the ring.
The name is kind of clever, I'll admit that. However, this finisher
I know it's called
not.
Hypnotic. Like that looks trash. I agree. That actually does look a lot worse than Asuka's.
In fact, it's actually kind of boring.
Right, she got Nyash, but like here's the thing though, when you got the bakery, bro, like me looking at that, I'm thinking it's pillows. Like I don't think a finisher should be one that somebody's like, oh, let me take that finisher, bro. Let me, you know what I'm saying? You can go ahead and pin me. Like you're not supposed to have that type of idea. You supposed to get, like you supposed to go, oh, that's crazy. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody does this in the middle of the match. Like if I just showed up to a WWE event, and I never knew this was a finisher, I would be like, okay, this is like a sequencing move. Like she's about to pair this with something else. But then if you hear 1, 2, 3, you're like, you know what I mean?
The idea is that Jada Parker rams her hip into her opponent's head. In reality, it's more like Parker runs into her opponent and they get knocked down.
Yeah,
it just looks underwhelming.
Looks like she's running past
the size of Jada Parker. Oh, I get why it's called the Hypnotic, because you'd have to be hypnotized to think this is a good finisher. Now, before we get to the worst finisher, here are a few dishonorable mentions. Mention Eat Defeat. I actually like this finisher, but here's the problem. The person taking it doesn't sell it right. What makes Eat Defeat look devastating is when the opponent snaps backwards. When they don't do that, the finisher appears flat and lacks intensity. Look at Gail Kim's Eat Defeat as an example of this finisher done right. Brooks Jensen, Southern Lariat. This is just a clothesline. An intense clothesline, but just a...
Like, that sucks. If you tell me he finished the match off that right there...
clothesline. Liv Morgan,
not believing it.
I like the unique setup with Liv.
It is a nice move. It's hard. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I got some respect for some difficult moves, too. I do think that this one just sucks because the setup, like, you can only do this in the middle of the ring.
Bouncing off the middle rope, and having her name in the middle of the finisher is pretty clever.
It's catchy, right?
However, Oblivion always seems to lack impact. It's not awful,
but it's one of those I think it's just difficult to perform.
It just needs a bit more. Ethan Page, Twisted Grin. It's not that it's a bad finisher, it's just someone else's. The Twisted Grin is the twist of fate. I know that Jeff and Matt Hardy have given their blessing for Ethan Page to use it, and that's a good thing. But it's not helping Page build his own identity. I know that R-Truth uses John Cena's attitude adjustment, but Truth is more of a comedy wrestler, and also fits the...
Even though he came back for 1 week and was supposed to be doing some serious stuff, and then we gave up on that.
...joke of Cena being R-Truth's childhood hero. Callie Armstrong, Callie Connection. It's a cool move and a cool name, but it just doesn't seem like a finisher to me. This would make for a great signature move, like John Cena's shoulder tap.
Yeah. People are just not creative.
But as a finisher, there's a disconnect. All right,
just do a spear.
Now it's time for the worst finisher in WWE right now.
Oh, shoot.
Number 1 is Dante Chen, Gentle Touch. As I mentioned,
the joint says gentle touch. Why would any finishing move have the word gentle in it?
In 2022, I made a video sharing who on the WWE roster at the time had the worst finishers. There were a lot of bad ones, but the worst was Dante Chen's. For those who don't know, Dante Chen is the first Singapore-born WWE wrestler. He made his debut in 2021 and has spent the past few years mainly competing on WWE's smaller shows like Evolve and NXT Level Up. Chen has a lot going for him, but his finishing move isn't one of them. It's called the Gentle Touch, and Chen just smacks his opponent's chest with both of his hands. That's it. And somehow, those chops are so powerful that the opponent is knocked out.
And this is why I disagree with, like, majority strikes. Majority of these moves being finishers is why I disagree with it. Because if you do any, like, for example, his finishing move is two hands to the chest. So if you were to tell me you like slap anybody, pop anybody, or strike anybody, anything like that throughout the match, I'm supposed to believe that you're OP because your finishing move is a strike. You know what I mean? So like you can't do that type of stuff and then somebody just recovers and like you guys are going back and forth. But if your finishing move is a strike, I just completely disagree with that. Like that sucks.
I could understand if Chen was supposed to be a comedy wrestler, like how Santino Marella had the Cobra, but this is meant to be a serious finishing move.
Yeah.
This isn't just one of the worst finishing moves right now, but one of the worst ever. With that said, who has the greatest WWE finisher of all time? Well, to find out, watch the video on screen.
Dang, top 50? I watched the top 50 video. Yeah, let me know.